The mockery. The demonstration that failed. The Galactic Technology Summit was held once every 5 standard years on the neutral world of Axiom Prime. Representatives from 200 civilizations gathered to showcase their latest innovations, establish trade agreements, and measure themselves against the galaxy's greatest minds. This year, humanity had been invited for the first time. Dr. James Carter stood in the presentation hall, a converted amphitheater that could hold 10,000 beings. Right now, it held about 300, and most of them were talking among themselves, barely paying attention to the human on stage. James didn't let it bother him. He'd expected this. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 15 years ago, and in that time, they'd earned a reputation as enthusiastic but ultimately derivative thinkers. Every technology humans brought to market was based on something another species had already invented. Humans were good at refinement, at making existing tech cheaper or more efficient, but innovation? True breakthrough discovery? That belonged to the elder races. Distinguished delegates, James began, his voice amplified by the hall's systems. Today, I'm presenting research from the Titan Gravity Institute on what we call gravitational inversion. A Vorlaxian in the third row made a sound like water gurgling through a drain, their species equivalent of a dismissive laugh. Several other delegates joined in with their own species' expressions of amusement. James continued as if he hadn't noticed. Current galactic technology manipulates gravity through mass displacement or energy field generation. Our approach is different. We found a way to temporarily invert the gravitational constant in a localized area. Impossible, declared High Scientist Terran, a centauri whose crystalline body refracted the hall's lights into rainbow patterns. The gravitational constant is universal. It cannot be changed without altering the fundamental structure of spacetime itself. You're absolutely right, James agreed. We're not changing the constant. We're inverting its direction. The murmuring grew louder. James activated his demonstration device, a meter-wide disc that hovered at chest height. He placed a heavy metal sphere on top of it. Watch carefully, he said, activating the device. Nothing happened. The sphere sat on the disc, exactly as expected. Gravity continued pulling it down. The delegates' amusement turned to outright laughter. Perhaps your device is malfunctioning, suggested Ambassador Krell of the Thovian Concordat, his scales rippling with poorly concealed mockery. Or perhaps human understanding of physics is even more primitive than we thought. James checked his readouts, frowning. The device was working perfectly according to his instruments, but there was no visible effect. The sphere should have been repelled upward, pushed away by inverted gravity rather than pulled down by normal gravity. I apologize, James said quietly. We'll need to review our calculations. Thank you for your time. He gathered his equipment and left the stage to a chorus of amused chittering, clicking, and humming. As he passed Ambassador Krell, he heard the Thovian say to his aide, humans. Always reaching beyond their grasp. It's almost endearing. The truth they missed. 3 weeks later, James sat in his lab on Titan, staring at the same demonstration device that had failed so spectacularly at the summit. Around him, his team of 12 researchers worked at their stations, running simulations and checking calculations for the 1000th time. I don't understand, said Dr. Lisa Park, his lead physicist. The math is perfect. The device functioned exactly as designed. But there was no observable effect. Maybe the effect is too small, suggested Dr. Ahmed Hassan. Maybe we need more power. We pumped enough energy through that device to power a small city, James replied. If power was the issue, we should have seen something. He pulled up the recording from the summit, watching the metal sphere sit motionless on the disc. Then he noticed something. He paused the playback and zoomed in. Lisa, look at this. She came over, studying the frozen image. What am I looking at? The sphere's shadow. It's in the wrong position. Lisa's eyes widened. She pulled up her own terminal, running calculations rapidly. The light source was directly overhead. The shadow should be directly beneath the sphere. But it's offset by approximately 2 centimeters to the left. Because the sphere moved, James said slowly, his mind racing. Not up. Sideways. The team gathered around as James explained his theory. We assumed inverted gravity would push objects away from the planetary surface. Up, in other words. But gravity doesn't work in simple binary directions. It pulls toward centers of mass. If we inverted it, the device wouldn't push away from axiom prime's center. It would push away from all centers of mass, including the sun. The sphere was being pushed away from axiom prime's star, Lisa breathed. The effect was so small in comparison to planetary gravity that we couldn't see it vertically, but horizontally, where there's no competing force. It moved, James finished. We didn't fail. We just didn't know what to look for. The real application. 2 months after the summit, Admiral Rachel Torres of the United Earth Space Force sat in James's lab, watching a new demonstration. This time, there was no audience of skeptical aliens. Just the Admiral, James, and a small device floating in a zero-gravity test chamber. Explain it to me like I'm 5, Torres said. James smiled. Gravity pulls things together. Our device pushes things apart. In a planetary gravity well, the effect is tiny. But in space, far from any large masses. He activated the device. The small satellite drone they were testing shot away from the device at incredible speed, accelerating rapidly as it moved through the empty test chamber. In deep space, your device becomes a reactionless drive, Torres said, understanding dawning in her eyes. No propellant needed. No fuel consumption. Just push away from every mass in the universe and accelerate indefinitely. Better than that, Lisa added, pulling up a simulation. Because the effect pushes away from all masses simultaneously, including the ship's own mass, there's no inertial stress. The entire vessel and everything in it accelerates uniformly. Torres leaned back, processing the implications. No g-forces. No inertial dampeners needed. And the speed? We haven't found an upper limit yet, James admitted. In theory, you could accelerate continuously until you approach light speed. Maybe beyond, though the physics gets weird at that point. How long before we can build a working prototype? For a small ship? 6 months. But Admiral, there's something else. James pulled up a different simulation. We can reverse the polarity. Instead of pushing away from mass, we can pull toward it. Selectively. The simulation showed a fleet of ships in formation. One ship activated a gravitational inversion field with reverse polarity. Every ship within range was pulled toward it, their formations collapsing into a chaotic jumble. A tractor beam, Torres whispered. No, better than that. A weapon. We can also create gravitational dead zones, Lisa added. Areas where gravity simply doesn't work. Imagine trying to navigate through a region of space where your sensors can't detect mass, where your ship's gravity plating fails, where even planetary orbits become unpredictable. Torres stood, walking to the viewport that showed Saturn's ring stretching across the black. The summit delegates laughed at us. Yes, ma'am, James confirmed. Good. Let them keep laughing. She turned back to face the research team. How many people know about the real applications? Just us, James said. And now you. Keep it that way. The galaxy thinks we failed. That our gravity tech was an embarrassing mistake by primitive humans reaching beyond their capabilities. Let them keep thinking that while we build what we actually discovered. She headed for the door, then paused. Dr. Carter, do you know why humanity keeps surprising the galaxy? Why, ma'am? Because we fail forward. Every other species in the galaxy has been successful for so long that they've forgotten how to learn from failure. They build on success after success, refining what works, perfecting what they already understand. But humans? We fail constantly. We make mistakes, we hit dead ends, we produce results we didn't expect. And instead of seeing that as weakness, we study our failures until we find the success hidden inside them. She smiled. You didn't fail at the summit, Doctor. You just discovered something different than what you were looking for. Now let's figure out how to use it. The application. 6 months later. The Thovian Concordat patrol fleet detected the human ship at the edge of their territory. It was small, roughly corvette-sized, broadcasting standard merchant identification codes. Nothing threatening. Nothing unusual. Captain Vresh commanded the patrol frigate that moved to intercept. His orders were routine: verify the human ship's credentials, check its cargo manifest, ensure it wasn't smuggling contraband into Concordat space. Human vessel, Vresh transmitted, this is Thovian patrol ship Relentless. Cut your engines and prepare for inspection. The human ship complied immediately, its main drive shutting down. It drifted in space, apparently cooperative. Vresh's second officer, a young Thovian named Krell, nephew of the ambassador who'd mocked the humans at the technology summit, monitored the scanner readings. Sir, the vessel appears unarmed. Single human crew member. Cargo hold contains trade goods, textiles, basic electronics, food supplies. Very well. Helm, bring us alongside. The Relentless maneuvered closer, its tractor beam already powering up to lock onto the human ship. Standard procedure. Then something impossible happened. The human ship moved. Not its main drive activating. Not thrusters firing. It simply moved, accelerating smoothly away from the Relentless at a speed that shouldn't have been possible for a ship that size with its engines offline. Pursuit course. Vresh ordered. What kind of drive system is that? Unknown, sir, Krell replied, his scales flushing with confusion. I'm not detecting any conventional propulsion signatures. No plasma exhaust, no gravity field manipulation, no quantum tunnel formation. The ship is just moving. The Relentless gave chase, its powerful engines straining to match the human vessel's acceleration. But the human ship kept pulling away, moving faster and faster, and according to the sensors, the ship's hull showed no signs of inertial stress. It was accelerating at a rate that should have turned any crew inside into paste, but the human pilot seemed completely unaffected. Long-range communications, Vresh commanded. Alert Concordat command. We have a situation. The fleet response. Within hours, a Concordat battle group arrived in the sector. 12 warships, including 2 heavy cruisers, surrounded the region where the human merchant ship had disappeared. Admiral Thraxus commanded the operation from his flagship, the Inevitable. A veteran of 40 campaigns, he'd fought pirates, rebels, and even rival civilizations. One human ship didn't concern him. Deploy the interdiction net, he ordered. If that ship tries to jump to FTL, I want it trapped. His tactical officer activated the gravitic interdiction field, a sphere of disrupted spacetime that prevented faster-than-light travel within its boundaries. It was the Concordat's answer to fleeing enemies, a cage made of bent reality itself. Net deployed, Admiral. Scanning for the human vessel. Found it, reported another officer. Bearing 270, range 800,000 kilometers. It's just sitting there. Thraxus studied the tactical display. The human ship held position, making no attempt to flee or fight. Curious. Weapon status? All ships report ready, Admiral. Human vessel, Thraxus transmitted, you are surrounded by the Thovian Concordat 3rd Battle Group. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. The response came in a calm female voice. This is Captain Saracen of the UESF Archimedes. Admiral, I need to inform you that you've made a serious mistake. The only mistake was yours, human. You fled from a lawful inspection. No, Admiral. I didn't flee. I led you here. You brought 12 warships into an interdiction field you created yourself. That's the mistake. Before Thraxus could respond, his tactical officer shouted a warning. Admiral, gravitational anomalies detected. Multiple sources. On the display, gravity wells appeared around each Concordat ship. Not natural masses. These were artificial, intense, and growing stronger by the second. Impossible, Thraxus breathed. How are they generating gravitational fields inside our own interdiction net? We're not generating them, Captain Chen's voice explained calmly. We're inverting your existing gravitational fields. The more energy you pump into your interdiction net, the stronger our effect becomes. The Concordat ships began moving. Not under their own power. They were being pulled together, dragged by artificial gravity toward a common point. Crews scrambled to fire maneuvering thrusters, but the force was too strong. Cut power to the interdiction net. Thraxus ordered. Can't, sir. The system won't shut down. Something's overriding our controls. Two frigates collided, their shields sparking against each other. A cruiser's hull groaned as it was pulled into an uncontrolled spin. Across the fleet, ships fought against forces they couldn't see and couldn't escape. All ships, emergency jump. Thraxus commanded. Get us out of here. FTL drives are offline, Admiral. The gravitational distortions are too severe. On the view screen, the human ship, tiny Archimedes, hung motionless in space, completely unaffected by the chaos it had created. The message. It took 3 hours for Concordat reinforcements to arrive and carefully extract the third battle group from the gravitational trap. Not a single ship was destroyed, but every vessel suffered damage. Structural stress, blown power systems, injured crew members. The bill for repairs would be enormous. Admiral Thraxus sat in his quarters, watching the recording of the incident for the 5th time, trying to understand what had happened. His terminal chimed with an incoming message. It was from Admiral Rachel Torres of the United Earth Space Force. Admiral Thraxus, Torres said, her image appearing on the screen. I hope your crews are unharmed. Captain Chen followed her orders precisely, demonstrate our new gravity technology without causing casualties. Consider it a successful demonstration. Thraxus felt his scales darken with anger. You attacked a Concordat battle group. We defended one of our ships from illegal detention, Torres corrected. Your Captain Vresh ordered the Archimedes to submit to inspection without cause. The Archimedes was in neutral space, not Concordat territory. Captain Chen had every right to refuse. So you developed a weapon specifically to humiliate us? Torres smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. No, Admiral. We developed a propulsion system. The weapon applications were just a bonus. And we developed it 6 months ago, shortly after the Galactic Technology Summit where your ambassador Krell left at our research. The pieces fell into place. Thraxus remembered hearing about the failed human demonstration. The gravity device that hadn't worked. It did work, he said quietly. Of course it worked. We just didn't understand what we'd created until your people finished laughing at us. So we took it back to our labs, figured out what we actually had, and improved it. Now we have ships that can outrun anything in the galaxy, weapons that can disable entire fleets, and the ability to create or cancel gravitational fields at will. Torres leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen, Admiral. Earth is releasing the basic principles of gravitational inversion technology to the galactic scientific community. In about 6 months, every civilization will be able to build their own version. The military applications will revolutionize warfare. The commercial applications will transform space travel. Why would you give away such an advantage? Because holding on to it would make us a target. Every civilization in the galaxy would unite against the humans who monopolized gravity weapons. But if everyone has access, the playing field stays level. Besides, Torres smiled again, we're already working on the next generation. By the time the rest of the galaxy catches up to gravitational inversion, we'll have moved on to something else. Thraxus absorbed this. You're not angry that we mocked you at the summit? Angry? Admiral, we're grateful. If you'd taken our research seriously, you would have asked questions, demanded data, maybe even figured out the real applications yourselves. But because you laughed, because you dismissed us as primitive humans playing with concepts beyond our understanding, You gave us time and space to work in secret. Your mockery was the best gift you could have given us. The transmission ended. Thraxus sat in silence, thinking about the small human ship that had disabled his entire battle group without firing a shot. Thinking about the species that turned failure into success and mockery into motivation. His terminal chimed again. This time it was Ambassador Krell, requesting an urgent meeting. "Uncle," Krell said when the connection opened, "have you heard? The humans are releasing gravity inversion technology to everyone. The council is in chaos. Half the delegates want to ban the technology, the other half are already trying to acquire it." "I heard," Thraxus said quietly. "This is a disaster. If every species has access to this technology, our military advantage disappears. The carefully balanced power structure of the galaxy will collapse. Everything will change." "Yes," Thraxus agreed. "And whose fault is that, nephew?" Krell's scales paled. At the summit, they seemed so primitive." "They are primitive," Thraxus said. 15 years in galactic society. They barely understand the basics of most technologies. But they have one advantage over every elder race in the galaxy." "What's that?" "They still remember how to learn from their mistakes. We've become so successful, so confident in our superiority, that we've forgotten the most important lesson in science: failure isn't the end of discovery. It's the beginning." Thraxus closed the connection and pulled up the recording of the Human Technology Summit presentation one more time. He watched Dr. James Carter stand on that stage, watched the device fail to produce visible results, watched the human gather his equipment and leave in apparent defeat. But now Thraxus saw what he'd missed before. Carter hadn't looked defeated. He'd looked thoughtful. Puzzled. Like someone who'd just discovered that the answer to his question wasn't what he expected, but might be something even more interesting. Epilogue: The real lesson. 3 months later, Dr. James Carter received an invitation to present at the next Galactic Technology Summit. This time, the hall was packed. Every seat filled. Delegates stood in the aisles and crowded the doorways, all eager to hear what the human who'd discovered gravitational inversion had to say. James stood on the same stage where he'd been mocked, looking out at an audience that now hung on his every word. "Distinguished delegates," he began, "today I'm presenting research from the Titan Institute on quantum field manipulation and its potential applications in communications technology." He activated his demonstration device. Nothing visible happened. The delegates waited, expecting another surprise, another hidden success disguised as failure. James smiled. "This time, it actually didn't work. We're still trying to figure out why. But we'll get there eventually. After all, that's what humans do best. We fail, we learn, and we keep trying until we succeed. I encourage all of you to do the same." He gathered his equipment and left the stage. This time, there was no laughter. Just silence, and the thoughtful expressions of beings who'd learned an important lesson about the dangers of underestimating those who refuse to quit.